It is ironic that the distinguished ambassador of the United States accused my government of destabilizing the region and terrorism. The country that invaded two countries in our region and created favorable ground for the growth of terrorism and extremism is not well placed to raise such accusations against my country. Fakeless and reckless acts of the United States in our region for so many years are at the root of many challenges that we are now facing in our neighborhood.
All right, folks. Welcome to the Steve Malzberg Show. Glad you're aboard. That was the Iranian ambassador to the United Nations. Today, the U.S. went to the Security Council, and guess what? They approved the Iran deal even before Congress gets a chance to debate it or read it. And then our ambassador took Iran to task, I think it was more for show, on them holding our prisoners and upsetting, and sponsoring terrorism in the region. And then he scolded us, as you just heard. Joining us is Mike Huckabee, former governor of Arkansas, of course, Republican presidential candidate. And check out MikeHuckabee.com. Hello, Governor.
Steve, it's great to be with you. And this deal is such an embarrassment. It's like driving in a brand new Mercedes into a dealership and trading it for a 10-year-old Yugo and then trying to brag to everybody you got a good deal. This was a disastrous and dangerous deal for America and for the rest of the world. And I hope that we're going to see some courage and conviction show up in Congress and stop this before we make this world a much more dangerous place.
And Governor, though, the Senate gave away with the Corker bill. Otherwise, they would have needed 2/3 vote to have this as a treaty pass and become effective. They passed the Corker bill, gave the president what he wanted, and now they're going to need 2/3 to override. They're never going to get it.
It's hard for me to understand what the Republicans are thinking. First, on the trade bill, which I thought was also a disaster, Republicans pushed to give Obama more power, even though he has overreached in power on Obamacare and immigration. They turned around and give him more power on trade. And with the Corker Amendment, what they ended up doing was to give this president more power to make this Iranian deal. This is defying common sense. And maybe in the world of Washington, they can somehow decide this is a brilliant strategy. But out here where reality is, this doesn't bode well for the future of this country or the security of the world.
All right, Governor, what about the prisoner issue? I mean, most people would have thought that you would insist upon the release of our prisoners as a precondition to even talking. The president said we couldn't do that because then they'd want more concessions. And then a day later, Kerry comes out and says every single meeting, every single session, they brought up the prisoners. So who's telling the truth, Kerry or Obama?
Well, if they did bring it up every time, then it shows what lousy negotiators they are. They didn't get not one of them out of prison. And, Steve, I agree with you. This should have been a precondition. There should never have been even one moment sitting at a table until those four were released. And the second concession that should have been a precondition is that the rhetoric of death to America and we're going to wipe Israel off the face of the map has to stop. And it has to be backed up by a commitment that you will respect Israel as a sovereign nation with the right to exist with secure borders, and that you will recognize that if you want to negotiate with America, you must respect America. You cannot call for its death and destruction. And if they didn't agree to those three things, respect for Israel, respect for America, and the release of those prisoners, then we should have said, there is no deal, there is no talk, let's not waste our time and the people's money to even pretend there's a talk.
All right. Donald Trump made some news, something he said about John McCain. Just let's give a listen to some of it right here.
He's not a war hero.
He's a war hero.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
Do you agree with that?
He's a war hero because he was captured, okay? You can have, and I believe perhaps he's a war hero, but right now he said some very bad things about a lot.
Now, look, I disagree with John McCain on almost everything. And I don't think because you were a war hero or are a war hero, you're immune from criticism. But I think what Donald Trump did was totally disrespectful, went over the line, and he does need to apologize. Instead, he said he won't, and he's doubling down. What's your take on it?
Well, I think there's a difference between criticizing John McCain's Senate record, his actions whether they're toward veterans or immigration or anything you want. That's fair game. But do not question his patriotism, his heroism, his fidelity to this country, because he was a hero. He is a hero. That doesn't mean that I have to agree with his political positions as deference to his war activities, but by God, I have to accept that what he did was incredibly heroic. And I think people need to remember that Donald Trump is not being criticized because he went after McCain on immigration or went after McCain on the VA. He's being criticized because he downplayed what McCain did as a prisoner of war, and he treated it with disrespect. You simply cannot do that, because that is disrespectful, not just to POWs. It's disrespectful to every veteran. And, Steve, let me be very clear. Whether a person is a POW or has a Purple Heart, any person, man or woman, who puts the uniform of the United States military on is, to me, a hero, because they signed up to put themselves between me and a bullet. And they're heroes. They keep me free. I enjoy the freedom of this country because of the sacrifice and the service that they render. And I am duty-bound as an American to respect that service which they provide.
And so he obviously, you would think, I guess, that he should apologize to John McCain.
It's his decision to make, but that shouldn't be because of pressure. It should be because he realizes that what he said was simply wrong.
Right, right.
I don't want people to pressure me into saying something that I don't believe.
Right.
So I'm going to have to assume at this point that John, or that Donald Trump, doesn't want to take that position because he doesn't believe he's done anything wrong.
And
so let me say, I respect that he's maintained his position. I disagree with it, but I want to be also as clear as I can be. I'm not getting into this race to react to everything Donald Trump
says. I
says.
understand that. I understand that, and you're right on with every soldier, every former SEAL or Marine, anybody who comes to this studio or that I speak to on the phone before we start the interview. I always say to them, or if they were a caller to my radio talk show, I would always say, you're a better person than I because you volunteered to put on the uniform. I think that goes without saying. Let's move on. The Planned Parenthood outrage, Governor. Should this become a big issue? I mean, is this something that I know you feel deeply about it? Should this be a big issue in the campaign going forward, what Planned Parenthood did? And the whole abortion issue, because the polls show that you guys win, because even pro-lifers, pro-abortion people don't favor abortion on demand, which is the Democratic Party platform.
See, this is a teachable moment for America. It's a reminder of what really happens when we take the life of an unborn child. And we've only done it nearly 60 million times since 1973. This country needs to wake up and realize that it's not just about aborting an unborn child. That's atrocious. It's the devaluing of that child. It's believing that some people are disposable, that they're expendable, that they can be treated as if they were discardable pieces of trash rather than a human being that deserves respect, honor, and the treatment that we would expect for any person of intrinsic worth and value. And I hope that bigger discussion will come forward in this, because I don't see how we can call ourselves civilized human beings if we murder unborn children.
Absolutely.
And sell their body parts.
Governor, it's MikeHuckabee.com. Where are you and where are you going to be?
I'm in Florence, South Carolina right now, getting ready to go into another campaign event. We've been here throughout the day. I will be in California and Nevada later this week, and back to Iowa early next week.
All right, well, I hope your arms don't get too tired, but have a great, be well, be safe, and we'll speak to you soon, sir.
Thank you, Steve. Great to talk to you.
You too. MikeHuckabee.com, ladies and gentlemen, and we thank the governor for coming on with us. Up next, the Malzberg panel. Don't go away.